So, how are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing good as well. Thank you so much for asking. So, Kodi, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for accepting.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Now, before we start, you know the drill. I have to give you an epic welcome, So, here we go with the cheering. There you go.
I love that so much.
I'm still saying that at some point it will be cool. Like, for example, behind me, whenever there's like an epic moment, like fireworks would come, that would be epic.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you gotta do. Just have like a full-blown audience cheering.
Yeah, right? That would be cool. That would be cool. But anyway, so starting with the interview here, tell me how your passion for acting and for Shakespeare started.
Yeah. I'm like, also hello to your dogs. I love it. I started as a dancer, and I danced for years and kind of fell into theater in this very particular Shakespeare class, which I spoke about when I came and spoke with you and Alex together. Yeah. There was this class that I took in like 7th grade that was like only Shakespeare, and I don't know how the school was allowed to do that. It was like, you're gonna do a drama class, but you're only gonna learn Shakespeare. And the first show we did was Julius Caesar, which I think is like kind of epic. I'm like, we're just jumping right into the deep end there with a bunch of 7th graders. But I had one of those incredible teachers who just like oozed passion for Shakespeare, and we all kind of caught the Shakespeare bug, and I just kept doing it year after year after year, and it turned into a career somewhere down the line.
That's so cool. And so tell me about Willow and about your character, and what do you like the most about that project?
So Willow was super cool because it was the intersection of kind of film and Shakespeare. It was a project that I did while I was living in the UK, and it was a short film that was kind of my baby. I was one of the creators behind it, and it's the story of Othello if all the genders are swapped. So Othello became Ella, Desdemona became Desmond. All the genders were swapped. So I played Cassie, which was the female version of Cassio. And that was super cool. And it was modernized. We weren't doing anything in iambic pentameter. I think the short itself was only like 14 minutes long. But it was really cool for me to get to experience those like crazy heightened stakes in modern day, like in a situation where like we're in a living room for half of the movie, and looking at Othello, where Othello is a woman and Desdemona is a man, you're looking at domestic abuse in the reversal, where the woman's the abuser. So that was just like a super interesting, cool part of the project, because up until that point, I had never been a part of something that looked at domestic violence where the woman was the aggressor. And of course, with it stemming in the world of Shakespeare, I was like fully sucked into that project. It was my life for like a solid year.
That's so awesome. And tell me about Envelope, and also what are some of the best memories you have during that project as well?
So Envelope was fun because it was a group of writers, producers, other actors that I got together with during the pandemic, and we were kind of so fed up with not being able to do stuff. We kind of banded together and created something. I had a friend who had a script. I had a friend who directs in the theater world out here, but wanted to like dip his toe into directing in film and TV. I had friends like Alex who were like, I want to act. And so it was kind of my first stab at producing, and we produced it through SAG, which was really cool. And well, it was really complicated, but really fun. And that short in particular was so wild and eclectic, and the costumes and the characters, and I mean, it's the story of the 3 children of a soap opera star who passes away, and they're all just these eccentric, strange characters, and they're all kind of colliding together in her home for the first time in years. And it was fun to act with Alex. Like, we got to play sisters, which was so great. And like, again, the costumes and the colors, and it's just somewhat ridiculous because like there's a whole plot with a karaoke machine, and like money comes flying out of it at one point. And it was fun. Like, we were creating because we wanted to have fun. And I think that was the best part of that project for me, was like, we all got to reconnect with why we're in this industry and why we're doing this. You know, there wasn't like a higher goal. It was just like, let's have fun.
Yeah. Oh, how cool. And what do you like the most about producing and acting?
I feel like, you know, a lot of people who end up in this industry describe themselves as storytellers. And that's always been what it's been for me. You know, I was a dancer for years before I was an actor, and so it was already in my bones, I guess. And like, I've always been a bookworm, and like I've always like been reading a ton, and I loved watching movies as a kid. So that has always been a big part of my life, and I think this is just like the grown-up version of that. Like, this is the grown-up version of playing dress up, but we also get to make statements and help people learn more about themselves. And, you know, I guess the main hope for any audience who sees a project that I'm in or that I produce, or, you know, an audience that comes to a show, is they walk away with something new to think about or something new to assess about their own lives. And I think a lot of times, you know, it's like, that's always the famous quote about theater, is we're holding a mirror up to society. And I think especially over the past year, the whole kind of performance community has sort of been like written off. It's so much more valuable to the collective and to everyone's collective growth as, you know, humanity right now than I think we realize. And I think it's also like I also don't want to like gloss over the fact that sometimes it is purely just to entertain people, and that's what they need. Like, the amount of stories you hear about people who are going through really hard times, who like glommed on to like The Office or Parks and Rec, and they were like, that was my lifeboat getting through this. Like, I even have people in my family who like went through massive divorces or health issues, and they were like, I just binge watched all of Sex and the City, and like that was the reason I got through. It's like entertainment, like just the entertainment side of the industry has such an important part to play in people's lives that you might never meet. And I think it's important to remember that when you're working on anything. Yeah,
absolutely. And now tell me how you usually prepare before acting on stage and on set.
Yeah, so I think I mean, obviously it depends on the project, it depends on the director that I'm working with. My process, and I know Alex talked about this a little bit too, it's like I will sit down with the script always, read it at least twice. Once just like reading it at like, because I think sometimes, and I'm sure other actors can identify with this, but like, if you know who you are the first time you read a script, you're kind of like reading it as the character, and you're like, oh, like, how would I react to this? And how would I think, what would my character think about this? So I try really objectively not to do that for the first read. I just try and take in the story as it is. Because if you can pull yourself away from your character's goals and objectives in the overall arc, whether it's like the full episode script for whatever the show you're on is, or if it's like the full script of Titus Andronicus, if you can pull out and kind of take away, okay, as an audience member, these are the important things, this is like the moral of the story, this character's arc is the most important in terms of like the audience being brought along, then the second time I read it, I go, okay, how does my character serve that? And I think if you can remember, I think a lot of times as actors, especially like right out of drama school, you're kind of like in your own world, and you're like, what am I going to do with this? And it's like, well, that's not really your job. Your job is, how do you serve the story? And I think that's the most important part of an actor's job, is understanding how your piece fits into the overall story. And then in terms of like actual like nitty gritty stuff, I have this, I was gonna see if I have it with me. No, I think it's in the other room. I literally have a notebook, and I scrapbook like the vibe of each character I play. Like, usually I wait until we do the big design presentation, or I kind of know what the vibe of the show is going to be, and I'll make a playlist on Spotify for each character, and you know, that's what I'll be listening to when I'm warming up or when I'm driving to set or whatever it is. And then I have a physical scrapbook, which is fun because then I can like flip back, and like right now a show that I did in October of 2019 is being brought back, which is super fun, and they've asked a lot of the original cast to come back and do it again. So it's great for me because I can pull out my book and like go back and be like, oh, what were my thoughts on that character when I first played them, and how are they going to be different now? Because I'm, 2 years older and we've gone through a global pandemic. Like, they're going to be different because I'm different.
How cool is that?
Question? Yeah, I'm like, yeah, it's super cool. I'm super excited about it.
How cool. And tell me, what is the number one thing you always bring with you when you have to go either to shoot a film or to go on theater? Or
Good question. I always have a bag, and this, Alex and I talk about this all the time. As a woman in this industry, it can be very difficult in terms of costuming and being fitted into clothes that you feel comfortable in, that fit your body right, because there's so many, different body types of any human. But I always come to set with my favorite pair of jeans, like a tan bra, tan underwear, like a white t-shirt that I know I like. Like, I just have basics because you never know if, and normally like with theater and like even with sets too, it's like you'll go through a costume fitting beforehand.
Yeah.
Like, the amount of times that I've then got to set and like something is changing and moving around, they're like, oh no, we need a pair of jeans for you. I'm like, I have my favorite ones.
How cool.
Like, I've worn my own jeans in like multiple jobs that I've worked.
So they're pretty much like the lucky jeans.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I'll bring them to set. Why not? I'm not going to need them. I end up in them more often than not.
How interesting is that? How cool. Wow. Okay. And now on your website, we can see your resume on the theater section. Now, you have been in many plays such as 1969, Still Life with Iris, A Midsummer Dream, Luna 1, Front, Ripple, Anthony, Plus, Cleopatra, Yellowface, Measure for Measure. Now, from all of those projects, what are some of the best moments on the process on each play, and what are the things that you enjoy the most about your characters?
Yeah. I've been lucky enough to play a really wide variety of characters. And that's what's so wonderful about theater is you're not as pigeonholed into, my exact age and my exact type. Like, I can play someone who's in their late 30s, early 40s in theater if they have the right makeup and the right costuming. And, but I think I'm just gonna pick one because I can talk forever about all of them. But Luna 1 was incredible to be a part of. It was a conceptualized show that the New Orleans Shakespeare Festival did, and it was 5 women, each playing a different. Of course, it's a Shakespeare show. Damn, surprise! I'm gonna pick one of the Shakespeare ones. So it's 5 women playing different women from Shakespeare's canon through kind of the ages of life. So there was a Juliet, there was an Ophelia, there was a Phoebe, there was a Lady Macbeth, and then they made Prospero Prospera. So you have like someone who's 13, someone who's 20, someone who's in their 30s, someone who's in their 40s, and someone who's in their 60s. And we each did excerpts of those women's lives, because each of those women go through a large shift in the show. And so we curated a piece before and after, and I got to play their Juliet, which was so exciting. And it was New Orleans, so we had like a violinist and a cellist sitting there, and they were improvising music that was playing underneath us the whole show. We had a wonderful Swedish physical artist. She would do body art with charcoal on paper. So we like taped, it was a very New Orleans show. I'm like, we taped this big piece of white canvas down on the floor, and she's a dancer, and she has these piles of charcoal sitting around her, and she grabs them and then kind of paints and like dances with her body. So then at the end of the show, it was a fundraiser, and at the end of the show they auction off the piece of art that she's created throughout. Anyway, it was so cool to be a part of, and it was really fun being the youngest in kind of a group of women who are seasoned in Shakespeare and like ingrained in the New Orleans scene. It was an incredible experience.
Wow, that is such awesome. I mean, like, one of the things that I enjoy the most is about like whenever they will talk about their career in theater, because they like you and like the other people that I had interviewed, they have really such awesome stories. You know?
Yeah.
It's
great.
I mean, and I bet that also like during those times you are able to learn a lot.
Yeah. It's I mean, I think what I love about theater is it's really where you, in my opinion, learn and grow and develop as an actor, just because you have the time to. I think, it's not that you don't learn on a set. You learn on a set, but in a very different way. You learn on it so quick that you have to learn. And I think with theater, you have the time to kind of breathe and like take things in and like adapt and grow.
And also I think the connection, right? Like once you're doing it, the connection that you will have with the audience, that is also really, I mean, I'm pretty sure that pretty much like the vibe around there will pretty much feed you to, you know, like do the performance and everything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can't replicate that feeling, especially like with an audience too, like knowing that it's happening. And what I love about theater is Michelle Terry once said this on a podcast with the Globe. What's special about theater is once it starts, no one can stop it. Like no one's gonna click pause. Like
that's
you
true.
can in a movie, you can't like go make dinner or run to the like. I mean, you can run to the bathroom, but like you're gonna miss some of it. Like once it starts, it doesn't stop. And I think there's something really magical about that.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Actually, interesting. Yeah. And tell me, what is your approach for acting? I mean, what is like the goal that you try to achieve every time you go on stage?
Truth. It's always just truth, like authenticity. I think we as humans on a deeper level know when someone's performing or putting it on top, and I think the most moving performances for me that I've seen, and then I you know, it's like also the ones that have felt the most rewarding are ones where I've really kind of tapped into something that is true for me and the character and kind of let that spill out on stage. And I think performances where actors are unafraid to be ugly or unafraid to be messy with their emotions are always resonate the strongest, because as humans living life, it's very hard for us to put our emotions, our experiences into neat little boxes that are like, and then a single tear falls. It's like, no, there's like snot and I like can't breathe because I'm crying so hard on the floor and I can't stand up. It's like, I think the goal is always truth. Truth and authenticity.
How cool. And what inspires you to create a character?
People. Other people, humans, Alex talked about this a little bit. It's like, I don't feel like I've ever played a character that wasn't something real about someone, you know, whether it's myself or like a habit that a friend of mine has, or, you know, I love people watching. I'm on Clubhouse a lot, and I was talking in a Versa Vision room the other day about how I just go and sit at the park by my house. I sit at the park and I bring a journal and I just watch people, and I watch people fighting, and I watch people having a picnic with their friends, and I watch people with their kids, like, and I'll just make notes. And I think observing like people, I think it's part of why I'm an actor. It's like I love people, and you know, acting is the other side of anthropology. Like anthropology is the study of humans by observing them, and I think acting on a certain level is the study of humans by inhabiting them, by being them, by putting them on top of you. And so I think inspiration for characters always comes from reality. Not always my reality, but someone's.
And tell me what you usually do before going on stage and what you usually do after being on stage.
Before going on stage, I mean, I'm a big warm-upper. Like, I will get to the theater an hour early, and I will like do a whole like yoga class on the stage. I'll like slowly warm up my voice. I'll kind of go through, especially it's like I'm a fighter too, so normally most theater shows I'm in, there's going to be a fight call, so I want to make sure I'm like there early enough to do my whole warm-up before we have to do the fight call. And fight call is just where you run all of the combat scenes in the show just to make sure everybody's staying safe. And then I'm someone who can't, like, I'm in my zone when I'm warming up. Like, I'll have my AirPods in with the playlist that I created for the character. And then once my warm-up's done and once the fight call's done and I'm, like, in costume, like, I have to, like, get myself present. And I feel like when I'm, like, in the zone or, like, in my own bubble, I'm not present. So I make sure I'm, like, connecting with other actors. And, like, if everybody's standing over, like, getting coffee, like, I'll get coffee and be like, Daniel, what were you doing today? Like, you know, I'll just kind of connect with people and, like, make sure I'm, like, in my body and present with the ensemble that I'm working with. And then afterwards, I'm wicked fast at getting out of costume and cleaning out my dressing room, because, like, I want to go get a drink with everybody who's going out
Yeah.
after the show. Like
Yeah.
always. I think that's what's so special about theater is like you become a little family for however long the
That's
run
true.
is. Yeah.
How cool. And normally, what kind of drink you will get?
You know what? When it's after a show, I will almost always get a beer.
Beer.
Yeah.
That's good.
That's always my go-to after a show. Because I don't want to especially if it's like a Wednesday or Thursday night show, like I don't really want to have a cocktail, like, because I have to be up the next day and I'm back in the theater. I'm like, I'll have a beer. It's like, feels like, huzzah.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's true. Otherwise a cocktail might turn into 2, 3, 4, and
Right,
then,
exactly.
Yeah.
That's dangerous. I don't need to go
Yeah,
down
no,
that route.
totally. Yeah. And what advice could you give to future stage actors?
You are never done learning.
Hmm.
You are never done learning. Keep reading plays, keep reading books about acting, keep seeing theater, keep auditioning for theater, keep working on theatrical monologues. You have never, I think it's the same, it's like, again, going back to the idea that like acting is observing humans. It's like we're never done learning and growing as a human. So why would you ever be done learning and growing as an actor? Like you're never done, you're never ready. So don't ever let that be an excuse to like stop you from doing something. But yeah, stay curious, keep learning.
There you go.
Yeah.
Now, also on your website, we can see your video reel, in which you have your dramatic reel and comedy sample. Now, tell me, what do you think is the key for drama and for comedy?
I personally find comedy harder, and I think a lot of actors will say the same. I think, I'm gonna be a broken record over here, but I think the key to all of it is always truth. Like if you can stay true to the story, to what's happening, and I think if you can get out of your own head, like I can get in my head sometimes with comedy and being like, am I hitting that beat right? Is my timing right here? And I think if you can connect back with, okay, how am I serving the overall arc of the story? Like if you can keep reconnecting with that, like the next choice that you have to make will be clear.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah. And what have you learned about self-taping over the last year since auditions have not been happening in person because of COVID?
Yeah, it takes a lot of work. I'm like, I was talking to a friend the other day about, what my self-tapes looked like prior to the pandemic, because sometimes, we would get self-tapes through, and like, I just like stand like against a plain wall in my apartment and like, turn the light on and like film it on my phone. And like now I've got a whole setup. Like I've got a ring light, I've got box lights, so I have like 3-point lighting going. I have like 4 different colored backdrops. So based on what like the vibe of the audition is, I'll like use the right color backdrop. Like I've learned about camera angles. And I think with self-tapes, what's really nice is you have the ability to, which is also dangerous. Like when you're auditioning in person, you walk into the room, you have whatever it is, like 2 minutes to do your thing, and then they say thank you, we'll let you know, and you walk out. You get that one shot. With self-taping, I can just keep taping and taping and taping and taping and taping and taping until I get something that I like, which is great. But also like and I think a lot of actors are perfectionists, like it's so dangerous because you'll just be up until 3 a.m. taping it like 800 times. So at a certain point, I told myself I was only ever going to tape anything 5 times. So it gives me a cap, and it means that like, and I try and actively do something different in each take. And then if there are like multiple scenes, I can like edit together like, oh, okay, take 1 of this scene really worked, and take 3 of that scene was a little bit different. Like what happens if I put those 2 together? Like what does that arc look like? So I think what's nice about self-taping is the actor is then allowed to kind of be the filmmaker. Like you become your own producer, your own cinematographer, your own director. Like you have more freedom in terms of your final project, which is great and also dangerous.
Yeah, and I think it's genius the fact that you will only allow 5, because then it will give you the time to continue moving on through your day.
Right, yeah, it doesn't, when an audition comes in, it doesn't like take over my whole life. Like I'm like, all right, I've got 5 tapes, we're gonna bang them out, and then I'm gonna move on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's pretty smart, by the way. And tell me, if you could make a movie or a play describing your career at the moment, what would be the title?
Oh, what would be the title? I'm a big Disney fan, so I'm gonna say it's gonna be called Just Keep Swimming, because I love Dory and I love Nemo.
There we go.
And that's where I feel like I'm at right now. Like I'm pouring in the time and pouring in the energy, and I'm working hard and doing all the stuff, and I'm like, just got to keep doing that. I'm like, there's like, it's never gonna stop. Like, this industry always takes work. It always takes pouring a little bit of yourself into it. So I think, yeah, the title of the film would be Just Keep Swimming.
Okay. I'm gonna keep that name. So whenever you're looking for a name for a movie, we could put that. Like, remember this one? We're gonna
throw this one out here.
Yeah, absolutely. Now let's talk about your favorite topic, Shakespeare. Now, tell me, what do you think that was his goal for theater?
Entertainment. He wrote, obviously, for, you know, royalty, but that wasn't his world. That wasn't what he did. That wasn't what he was ingrained in. He wrote literally soap operas for the masses, and most of his audience were drunk or having sex or not paying attention. You know, like, none of them, like, they just, and that's why all of his shows, like, the stakes are so high. It feels like a soap opera. It's like everyone's dying, or has a twin who is evil, or, you know, it's like all these super dramatic things. And I think he was brilliant, and I think he commented on society in a really wonderful way. But I think at the forefront of what he was doing was entertainment, and I think sometimes we can forget that, and we can make him incredibly academic, which then just alienates a whole group of people who are like, oh, Shakespeare, it's funny. I'm like, every other line in a Shakespearean comedy is a dirty joke, and we just kind of gloss over that because it's like, oh, but Shakespeare needs to be like lofty. He doesn't. He's making sex jokes, and we're allowed to laugh at them.
Yeah, that's the thing that a lot of people would think Shakespeare as, you know, like fancy, like, you know. Yeah, it's true.
Totally, yeah, and I don't think that was his goal at all.
Yeah. Now, some of his plays can teach us about politics and the psychology of our current moment. Now, tell me, which ones do you think they teach us those 2 points?
Ooh, I think I'm like in the pre-period to rehearsals for Titus Andronicus, so I think that's one that's just in my brain right now. But I think it is a highly political show about people taking power from other people and thinking that they're right and not wanting to listen to anyone else. And I think there is and Julius Caesar is very similar, as is Measure for Measure, which I know we talked about with Alex, and I recently did a production of Measure for Measure, and it's that same thing. It's like, people sometimes can get so invested in their own beliefs that they don't want to listen to anyone else. And I think what's great about Shakespeare's work is he will show you that never ends well. Yeah. If you refuse to listen to the other side, to another person's opinion, it's not going to go well for you. Because those characters always end up being stabbed or, you know, dethroned or whatever it is. It's like, I think all 3 of those shows are a reminder, and I think there's a reason that those 3 shows are being done a lot right now. It's a reminder that you have to keep an open mind, and you have to listen to how other people are experiencing the world, because other people's experience isn't the same as yours. And if you have blinders on, you're not going to be able to grow or change, and the world's not going to be able to grow and change with the collective. Yeah,
and you know what? I think it's very interesting because, like, lately, over the past months, we have like a lot of situations happening because somebody thinks one thing, the other thinks the other, and they don't listen to each other, and they ended up fighting, arguing, or just causing a mess. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's just that not even willing to listen to the other side. It's like, what harm is there in listening to the other side? You don't have to change your opinion. Like, you don't have to. Just listen. Yeah. Like, just sit and listen to the other side. Like, actually listen.
Yeah, it's true.
We've got a lesson to learn about listening right now.
Yeah. because I think at the end of the day, that's kind of the beauty of the dialogue, because you might, by hearing the other person from their ideas, beliefs, or whatever, then you might, I mean, they might just don't change the way you think, but maybe they will open it a little bit. You know, maybe you could realize, okay, maybe I could do this instead of this, or I could say this instead of this. So I think also that is really important. And I think the other day I was having this conversation that one of the problems right now in the world is that nobody listens. We don't listen anymore. I mean, we just have like our ideas, our beliefs, and whoever agree with us, cool. Those who doesn't, let's end them, you know?
Right, yeah. And I think there's a key difference between hearing, like taking in the sound, and actually actively listening.
There you go.
Yeah, I think we need to stop just hearing and actively engage and start listening to other people.
Yeah, absolutely. Now tell me, how do you think he impacted the world?
Oh, I think he has done so much. I think he has given us a canon of work. And obviously a lot of his stories were adopted from a story that had been written prior, but I think there's something that he does with the language that speaks to us on a cellular level in a way that no other author does, or no other playwright. And like, I think at some point, and people might come at me for this, but like, people might talk about Lin-Manuel Miranda in a similar light, because what he does with internal rhyme in his music, there's like, if there's a similar, like, it hits you on a cellular level. Like, he's not rhyming A-B, it's internal rhyme, and you can hear it.
Yeah.
Again, it's something that's going to hit a level lower. And I think Shakespeare, the other really important, like, Shakespeare does that as well, especially with the iambic. I'm like, there's a certain part of you that recognizes that rhythm is also the rhythm of your body, because it's what a heartbeat sounds like. And so your body starts listening like on a lower level, which I think is just like magic.
Yeah.
But I also think Shakespeare captured the human condition and what it is to be a human being, the hard parts, the funny parts, the parts that we hate, the parts that we love. Like, I think, again, he captures that truthfully and was unafraid to put ugly or messy characters on stage to show that. And I think because he was able to do that in such an authentic way, that's why his versions of these stories have lived on. Because any human being can step into any role in any Shakespeare show and it will hold up. It will work, because he wrote humans as opposed to, you know, a queen or, you know, a magician or a monster. Like, he wrote people, and they're colored. They're not black and white, which I think is just absolutely incredible.
I'm speechless, but yeah, you're right.
Like, he writes, even in his villains, there's gray, you know. It's like there are debates about, well, why did he do that, and what happened in his life to make him do that. Like, you almost feel like the fact that in Othello, Shakespeare writes Iago in a way where the audience is almost on his side. Like, he's incredibly charming. He's being honest with the audience. He's like, yo, I'm gonna do this thing, and I'm gonna tell you that I'm gonna do this thing, and like, come at me for it, but like, I'm gonna do it because it's what I need to do right now. And it's like, there's a certain element of that where the audience is almost swept up in the whole story, and he's like this awful, horrible, racist character. And it's like, Shakespeare did something interesting where he writes Iago in a way that almost makes the audience feel empathy for him. And it's like, who else was doing that in any other play? The villain was the villain, and everybody
that's it. Yeah, that's true. That's true. I think the fact that when a villain has like a very like it's not the typical villain, like, oh, it's a villain, why? It's just a villain, that's it.
Right.
You know. And I think when they have like a backstory that you could relate, I think that's the key, when you pretty much look at like all the audience, like, okay, I can relate to that, you know?
Yeah, they're layered, they're human, they're humans. They're not, you know, they're not a villain, they're human. Yeah. Interesting. You know, it's funny, like it did happen the same time when I had like the interview with you and Alex. Like, a lot of times you will be hit, like a lot of times you will guys be saying,
yeah, you will be preaching with Shakespeare.
Do we get preachy?
Yeah. But it was really cool, and at the end of it, I pretty much stood like, I pretty much like sit on my chair for like 10 minutes, like be like, interesting, and
Yeah.
like one of those moments that when you're watching a movie or something, that once it's done, then you pretty much take a moment to yourself and be like,
Yeah, you've got to think about it.
It's true.
Shakespeare.
I think that is kind of the beauty of it, and the way how he would explain life by his plays. It is really interesting.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, we as human beings, we are super complicated at the same time, So.
Right. We're not all bad. We're not all good. I don't think anyone is all bad or all good. We're all a blend. We all live in that gray area. I think he captured that really, really, really authentically.
Yeah. Now, if you could describe a little bit about your personality with one of his plays, which one you will choose?
Wow. Okay, I'm gonna go with Much Ado About Nothing, because I identify with many of the characters in that show.
Okay.
And I think part of it is everyone's very stubborn and everyone refuses to like openly talk about how they're feeling. Like, I'm someone who sometimes will just be like, oh, I'm fine, I'm great. I don't need to tell you how I'm feeling. I'm feeling great. That's how I'm feeling. And so I think anytime I see that show, and in particular Beatrice and Benedict and their relationship, they're both like, I know, I hate him. He's the worst. I don't like him at all. Like, but it's so obvious the two of them are falling in love. It's like there's this, and then of course one of my favorite Shakespearean characters ever is a character named Dogberry, who is the fool or the clown in Much Ado About Nothing, and he is so sure of himself the whole time, and he's doing nothing right at all ever. And I feel like I have that energy sometimes. I'm just like, you know what? I'm just gonna commit. And I'm gonna do this, and I have no idea if this is the right thing I should be doing, but like if I commit to it, then like it's like the wrong and strong thing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go down without a fight. So yeah, I'd say Much Ado About Nothing.
That's interesting. Oh. And that's such interesting characters. I mean, you're gonna kill me, but I never watched play of Shakespeare in my life. Never.
I love it. Why not, right? I'm like, because we as a society have been taught that Shakespeare is this boring, lofty, holy thing, and it's like, it's not. It's funny. We just like need to remind people that it's funny.
There you go. Yeah, and that is why you have your podcast.
Yay!
Yeah, it's true. I think at the end of the day, whenever you would bring to the table Shakespeare, a lot of people would start to play fancy and
right.
And they would be like, and the other people would be like, no, it's too complicated, and maybe some other would be like, I don't understand anything at all. But yeah, like the fact that I mean that the way that you're describing it, it sounds like it is a lot more friendly and a lot more relatable, and I think that is one of the awesome things, that when you can relate to something, it's a lot easier for you to learn and not so very, very difficult. But I mean, as we were talking the last time in our interview here, that the fact that on school they will pretty much teach it by force, not giving you the chance to think or to question it or to ask or to be like, but what is this or what about that? They just pretty much be like, this is Shakespeare, eat it, that's it. That's why, of course, that you will have like this tons of generations. Whenever you bring Shakespeare, they'll be like, oh, you gotta be kidding me,
Right, everyone resists it. And I think, we talked about this a little bit last time, but I think the issue is that schools force people to read it. And it's like, it should not be read. Don't read it. Go watch it. Go watch a show. That's how it was meant to be consumed. Yeah,
true. Yeah, it's a lot different when you see something instead of reading.
Yeah.
And I think it's like, especially on plays, like whenever like the true version of it, it's on a play, it's a lot better if you watch it instead of reading it, of course.
Yeah, totally.
Now, if you could be involved in any play or movie franchise, whatever, which one do you would choose? Like right now, if you have like that opportunity.
Oh man, okay, there are so many. Okay. So I'm gonna tell you my thought process, because immediately I went Marvel, obviously, like the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe. And then I was like, oh, but or like Game of Thrones, which is now done, but like they're doing the prequel, I think which they're calling Blood Moons. Oh, that would be great.
Yeah.
And then the third place that my brain went was Westworld, but like the OG Westworld, like season 1 Westworld. I think because I love Shakespeare, it's like I love those heightened stakes, those situations that are not mundane, they're not everyday. We're gonna live in a world where things are different, where superheroes exist, or robots are shooting guns, or there are dragons. Like there's a part of me that I think it's that inner kid that I was saying earlier. It's like we're all actors because we want to be storytellers, and we love stories, and we love books, and we love movies. It's like if I could snap my fingers and like make that happen, it would be something fantastical and wonderful.
Like it has to be something epic.
It has to be something epic, yes.
Preach. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. Being epic. Yeah, I agree on that. It would be really cool, if you could be like on a Marvel movie.
Right? I'm like, who wouldn't, right? Who wouldn't snap their fingers and immediately just be like, oh, Marvel. I want to be in Marvel.
Yeah, and it's so interesting, like talking about Marvel, like they are genius because they are creating the series, but they keep up with the same story with the movies, and they're pretty much pretending for the next step, So the way they're doing things, I really, it's just, it's really interesting.
Yeah, I love it. I love that stuff.
Yeah, and what about Disney? Like a Pixar.
I'm like, I would kill to be in a live action Disney film. Like that would be, like I could die happy. I'm like, I love Disney. I grew up on Disney. Who didn't? But and like the ultimate goal has already happened. But like Kenneth Branagh, who is like the Shakespeare extraordinaire in the world, which is like, okay, I'm not surprised that he's directing Marvel movies because he's using all his like Shakespeare knowledge because it's a very similar world. He directed the live action Cinderella, and it was interesting listening to interviews with him when he was doing that, and it was with Lily James and Richard Madden, who he then ended up bringing to London, and he directed them in Romeo and Juliet, which I thought was so interesting. But he was talking about how, when he was directing the whole Thor series, it's like, it's Shakespearean. It is Shakespearean in nature because it is epic. And then he moved to Cinderella, and he was like, she in her own way is a superhero, and it's Shakespearean because we're dealing with magic and evil people who are human, and it's like there are all these different levels. And I think again, it's like there's a certain nostalgia that comes with those kinds of stories, because those kinds of stories were the first ones that I fell in love with, like fairy tales and superheroes and dragons and monsters, like that. That was what made me love stories to begin with. So it would be so great to one day come full circle and be a part of those again,
Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah, that would be epic. If I could describe Kodi right now, I would say epic.
Likewise. This is an epic moment.
Yeah, it is. It is actually. Yeah, but it would be awesome. Like, it would be really cool. Hopefully, I mean, if somebody's listening to this later and it's a Marvel producer or know somebody from Marvel, you know who to
Give me
call.
a call.
Just saying. Yeah, that's really awesome. Yeah, cool.
Thank you. Yeah. One day.
Well, yeah, definitely, and I'm sure it will happen. I'm super sure it will happen. Like one day we will see you on the big screen for this epic Marvel moment, and hopefully it could be like something like Endgame, that it will close everything in the most epic way. So then I would say, that's epic. Yeah.
The most epic. Yeah, that's the reaction that I need from you. Whenever you see it, like I need you to walk out of the theater and be like, that was epic.
Yeah, that's gonna be the new one. Yeah, that's gonna be trendy. Like hashtag Kodi epic.
Kodi's epic.
Kodi's epic. There we go. I like it. Yeah. Now, that's cool. Kodi's epic. Let's make it trendy though. Once we're done, I'll be sure that we're gonna make it trendy. So cool. Now, moving on with your website here, you have your branding consultation. So tell me about that project.
Yeah, so I used to work in marketing for many years, and now as an actor, it's like being in casting workshops and working with other actors and other friends, I'm like slowly learning that people go to websites, to social media, to Vimeo accounts, whatever it is, to kind of get a feel for what an actor might be like as a person to work with. Like, what would they be like on set? Like, our social media, our digital presence is now like a snapshot of who we are, how we're unique, and what we might like be like to work with. And so I think because of that, I've started using my knowledge of marketing and social media from my old job and gone, okay, how can I help actors do this better? Because again, this is such an industry where like the more we can help each other, the more art is just going to get created. So there's no reason to like not help everyone you meet. So I'm like, hey, if we can get all of these actors, all of these creators to represent their authentic selves on social media. I think that's the other like mission that I have with this whole branding thing is social media used to stress me out so much because I felt like there were so many things that I should be posting and things that I shouldn't be posting. And I was like, okay, screw that. That's not helping anyone. Like, it's like the acting thing. I'm like, the more that we can all just show up authentically without apologizing, without filtering, just being ourselves, the more it's going to encourage everyone else to be that way. And the more that social media will become a community of people supporting other authentic humans. So I do these branding consultations where I'll send someone a branding quiz and then I'll sit down with them and be like, okay, like what's your type as an actor? And what are your hobbies as a human being? Do you like cooking? Do you like hiking? And I send them this whole quiz that they get to fill out, and like we like create a little branding package. I go, okay, these are your brand colors. These are your 4 core themes that you should be posting about. Like, these are the hashtags that you can use. And I think I've like made it my personal mission to make social media a happier, healthy place for everyone to just be themselves unapologetically.
Now, you also do tarot readings. Now, tell me about that. Like, how did you learn to do that?
So Alex is actually a wonderful tarot reader, and she so this is going to sound so weird, but I used to read runes, which is like the Viking version of tarot. They're little stones that have...
You're kidding.
No, I'm not kidding you.
That's so cool. Okay.
So I started doing that when I was living in the UK. And there's a very kind of witchy, spiritual community over there that I just adored. And I started getting into tarot. Alex did it, very well. And, she would bring cards out on like girls' night and stuff. And so that was always super fun. And there was a sort of online witch that I love that I was following named Jessica Alexandria, and she runs a company called Bahati Life. And I had a reading from her, and it totally changed my life, like completely flipped my life upside down. And I was like, this woman's amazing. She knows what she's doing. She opened up a school for tarot readers, and I enrolled. And so I've been, I guess, like learning under her for like the past year or so. And I just love it. I think it's a lot of times people can be like, oh, it's predicting the future. It's not. It's just you're learning more about yourself. It's bringing stuff up that you need to look at as a human being to help you grow. It's like almost like a personal growth tool is the way that I look at it, at least. Yeah.
That's so epic.
It's epic.
Yeah. Huh. How cool is that? Now, tell me, like seriously, what motivates you? I mean, you are doing a lot of amazing, epic things. Now, tell me, where does this motivation come from? I mean, like, what makes you kind of like starting, like, yeah, like what makes you start a day like with full energy to keep going, like?
Yeah, I think that's such a tough question. I don't think I've ever been asked it in that way before. I think like there's a certain level of just like I couldn't do anything else. Like there's no, I don't see a world like, and I think everything happens for a reason. And like, we've all worked in multiple jobs for most of our lives. And it's like, I think like I was talking to someone the other day. It's like, I know I'm going to be an actor until the day I die. Like I know that in my bones. Like, so that's not going to change. My opportunities might go up and down. The rooms that I can get into might open and close, but like, I'm always going to be an actor. So it's almost like the motivation is that I get to do that every day, that I get to live a life that I love every day, and that I get to continue working towards building that life and maintaining that life. And I think on a certain level, it's like taking ownership and responsibility for your own happiness is a really hard lesson for a lot of people to learn. It was a really hard one for me to learn, but the second I did, I was like, oh my gosh, okay, I get to make the rules in my life. I can leave this job. I can start this business. I can act in that thing that's not going to pay me, but I'm going to act in it because it's going to make my soul happy. Like, I get to make those decisions. And I think a lot of my motivation over the past year and a half has been like the excitement that I get to make those choices for myself.
And like my last question here, if you could give an advice to someone who recently started following their dreams, what would you say?
Just keep swimming. Just keep going. Like keep learning, keep being curious, keep doing things that energize you, keep connecting with people, and stay authentic. Like keep going, but stay true to yourself. Like keep bringing yourself along with you on the journey. Yeah, that's my advice.
There you go. Perfect. Kodi, like it is super awesome talking with you. Definitely you are an epic super person. I mean, I think at the end of this conversation we will be like dropping the mic, you know, like for real. I mean, you are a super talented person. The fact that you are doing so many things, like with your acting career, with the consulting, with the tarot as well, like you have like all of this amazing stuff. And also on your resume,
Dan, you are doing all of these amazing things. You have this whole series now of Instagram Lives and the podcast with interviews with all these creators. I think what you're doing is so great. Again, it's like, let's keep lifting each other up because it's only going to help the whole industry grow. So props to you for all that you do as well.
Absolutely. Again, Kodi, thank you so much. It's been, it's super awesome talking with you again. Before I send you off, yeah, exactly. Here we go.
This is my favorite part.
I keep saying that at some point it would be awesome if I could have like my talk show. That would be epic.
Yes.
But anyway, until that moment, Kodi, again, thank you so much. Make sure that you're having an amazing rest of the day. Also, thank you for those who tune in and those who are listening to this later on the podcast. Also, if you are listening in this, make sure that you're following Kodi in all of her social media. Normally, what I would say is pause this for a while, follow her, leave a bunch of likes here and there, especially on the new photos of the mermaid one. Those are epic. And yeah. Also, make sure that you're sending her pictures of shark pucks.
Yes. Okay. Yes, we're gonna send this call out. I love pugs and I love sharks, and my new favorite thing is photos of pugs in shark outfits. So if you have any of those photos anywhere, send them to me.
There you go. Shark pugs. There you go. And again, thank you so much, Kodi. You're awesome. And I look forward for another interview or to see more of your awesome work soon.
Definitely. And likewise. Thank you so much for having me, Dan.
And I'll see you in the next one then.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.